Hello, hello, everybody. Let's see. Oh, I gotta change glasses. There we go. Nobody's here yet. That's okay. So I'll give it a few minutes, and then I'll just start reading because I think a lot of people end up watching this on the replay anyway, if anybody watches it at all. But I'm gonna read it on my own anyway, so I thought, why not just go live and read it for other people that doesn't want to spend money on the book. Hello, somebody's here. Hi. All right, it's a very short. Oh, my nose. Hold on. Okay, my nose is itching. Allergies. All right, we're just gonna start up, and people can maybe get caught up. People can get caught up. Let me find that one thing I like to start with. All right. Okay. All right. I always start with this. His first chapter of this book is how to read the book, and this is what he says about how the book is going to be read. And I always start with this one. Okay. Sorry, guys, I have to keep changing or you're going to be looking up my nose. Okay. When one is delivering answers which are simple, he need not make the communication any more difficult than is necessary to convey the ideas. Basic language has been used. Much of the nomenclature is colloquial. The pedantic has not only not been employed, it has also been ignored. He's saying that he's going to use basic language so that this book is understandable. I like to always start with that quote. That was how to read the book. So now we're in book 2. He doesn't go chapter by chapter. It's a book. Book 1, book 2, book 3, and then the chapters in that book. It's a very short chapter. I would have read a second chapter, but the chapter after this is very long. So we're just going to read the whole thing this time because it's short. So this is the book 2, the title of book 2. The single source of all inorganic mental and organic psychosomatic ills. So now he's a doctor, I guess, or a psychiatrist. He knows how to fix everybody. Book chapter 1. Let me trying to get this glare off my glasses. It's not gonna work. All right, we'll figure that out before next time. All right, chapter 1, the analytical mind and the standard memory banks. This chapter begins the search for human error and tells what it is not. The human mind can be considered to have 3 major divisions. First, there is the analytical mind. Second, there is the reactive mind. And third, there is the somatic mind. Now, we hear a lot in Scientology about the reactive mind, so I hope he gets into that more here. But what some of the ex-members have explained is how they have explained the reactive mind, what we would call the subconscious. But he makes it sound like it needs to be more controlled. Your subconscious is very hard to control, but I guess he's going to tell you how. Consider the analytical mind as a computing machine. This is analogy because the analytical mind, while it behaves like a computing machine, is yet more fantastically capable than any computing machine ever constructed and infinitely more elaborate. I would like to say, because I I try to put myself in the frame of mind of the people that were reading this book when it was first written in the 50s, the 60s, 70s. We know a lot of the parents and grandparents of current second and third gens that have gotten out got in through Dianetics. That was the biggest reason I wanted to read it. So I put myself in the frame of mind of those people. So you have to remember, he wrote this in the 50s. So when he's talking about and he died in 86. I graduated in 87. In my senior year, they started building a computer room. I could have taken it my senior computers in my senior year, and I chose not to. I was like, oh, that's never going to be a big deal, because you couldn't do that much on them at the time. So he doesn't understand what computers are like now. So you have to remind that when he says the mind is more powerful than the best computer. It could be called the computational he says he didn't spell this right. COMPUTATIONAL. Computational. Okay, it is computational. I don't know why it was different. It could be called the computational mind, or the now this is in quotation marks. This is how it's spelled. If you want to write this down, it's not a word. EGSUSHEYFTEF. Let me try to say that. Eggs you shave F. Egg you shave F. I'm going to show it to you. I'm not making this up. Okay, I underlined it. I cannot pronounce it. I don't know what that is. And he normally has explains words at the bottom of the page. All right, say that again. It could be called the computational mind or the egg-shoe shave def. But for our purposes, the analytical mind as a descriptive name will do. This mind may live in the prefrontal lobes. There is some hint of that, but this is a problem of structure, and nobody really knows about structure. I think we do know about the structure of the mind. So we shall call this computational part of the mind the analytical mind, because it analyzes data. Now, he just spent a whole paragraph telling us he was going to use analytical mind twice. Hey, Marco. Nice to see you. I haven't gotten very far if you want to catch up on like 1.5 speed, because there's a word in here that makes no sense. Okay. The monitor can be considered part of the analytical mind. The monitor could be called the center of awareness of the person. It, in exactly speaking, is the person. How is it inexact to say the analytical mind is the person, or the monitor is? I'm gonna read that again. It is so confusing. I have to reread stuff. The monitor can be considered part of the analytical mind. The monitor could be called the center of awareness of the person. It, in exactly speaking, is the person. It has been approximated by various names for thousands of years, each one reducing down to I. The monitor is in control of the analytical mind. It is not in control because it has been told to be, but only because it is inherently, because he has so many commas. The monitor is in control of the analytical mind. It is not in control because it has been told to be, but only because it is inherently. Period. Structure-wise, this doesn't make any sense. Hi, Susan. Did you take a Tylenol? I forgot again. Totally forgot again. I have my... This is my drug box, but I took my ibuprofen out. That's what happens when you're old and decrepit. Okay. That sentence did not make any sense. I'm going to move on because I want to reread it again, and I shouldn't. It is not a demon who lives in the skull, nor a little man who vocalizes one's thoughts. It is I. No matter how many aberrations a person may have, I is always I. No matter how clear, quotation, a person becomes, I is still I. I may be submerged now and then in an aberree, but it is always present. He just adds so many words in a sentence, it's not necessary. Marco, I'm right there with you. You would think in the 50s, English was more understandable. You didn't have all the slang and you didn't have all the changes that we have now. So you would think he could write this better. And he can. Remember, were you here last week? I took something he said and put it in Chat GPT. I said, make this sentence simpler. And it took half of the words that he used and made it simple. Okay. But it is always present is where I ended. The analytical mind shows various evidences of being an organ, but as we know in this age, so little of structure, the full structural knowledge of the analytical mind must come after we know what it does. I need to read 1984. I haven't done that yet. Okay. That did hurt my head. You know, English was one of my favorite subjects. I took more classes in it than I needed to in high school. But it was fun English, like reading Shakespeare and stuff. Okay. He's saying that the full structural knowledge of the analytical mind must, no, that's not the part. Being an organ, but as we know in this age, so little of structure. Maybe in the 50s they didn't know as much as we do now. Okay, let's move on. And in Dianetics, we know precisely that for the first time. It is known and can be proven with ease that the analytical mind, be it one organ of the body or several, behaves as you would expect any good computing machine to behave. Okay, make sure I'm caught up. War and peace, freedom. Oh, war is peace, freedom is slavery, innocence is strength. What would you want in a computing machine? The action of the analytical mind or analyzer is everything anyone could want from the best computer available. It can and does do all the tricks of a computer and and over and above that. It directs the building of computers and it is as thoroughly right as any computer ever was. The analytical mind is not just a good computer, it is a perfect computer. It never makes a mistake. It cannot err in any way so long as a human being is reasonably intact, parentheses, unless something has carried away a piece of his mental equipment. Now, I do agree to a point, because I used to joke when the IT guys somebody was having trouble with the computer, especially when I worked for the government. We would get the Windows updates like a year or two after they came out, because it took them forever to get to us. Because the Army had to go make sure everything was good with it before they give it to us. But I used to joke that a computer is only as good as the person who programmed it. That's just whenever I have problems with glitches in my computer that I think of that. Okay. It says, unless something has carried away a piece of his mental equipment. I'm assuming he means a part of your brain. If you've had an injury and a piece of your physical brain is gone. The analytical mind is incapable of error, and it is so certain that it is incapable of error that it works out everything on the basis that it cannot make an error. If a person says, I cannot add, he either means that he has never been taught to add, or that he has an aberration about adding. It does not mean that there is anything wrong with the analytical mind. Now, his idea of aberrations is problems that can be solved. So he'll probably end up saying that he said he can fix the aberrations. Okay. While the whole being is in an aberrated state, grossly capable of error, still the analytical mind is not. For a computer is just as good as the data on which it operates, and no better. So Tom Cruise is dyslexic. I would be curious to know if he still has issues with that, because he's OT8. He shouldn't have that problem anymore. Keeping my glasses down so you don't get the glare. So I would be very interested, because if you are the OT8 and you still have the dyslexia that L. Ron Hubbard said he could cure and it didn't get cured, you're not going to tell anybody that, because you're OT8. Because you're going to be asking yourself, well, what did I do wrong? Now, I don't know why your next comment is not there. Ah! Okay, there it is. I'm sure he's still dyslexic. Oh, I am too. And he knows it too. And so everything that we know that they're told and they think about Scientology, and that you go clear and you fix all these things and you can't be dyslexic anymore, but you have to be questioning that it works. Oh, I didn't mean for that to go on the screen. Sorry. All right. The analytical mind has its standard memory banks. Just where these are located structurally is again no concern of ours at this time. To operate, the analytical mind has to have percepts. That's how it's spelled. Or data, memory data, and imagination data. There are another data storage bank. I think it should be there is another data storage bank and another part of the human mind which contain aberrations and are the source of insanities. Oh, here we go. There is another data storage bank and another part of the human mind which contains aberrations and are the source of insanities. So these aberrations is the source of insanity. So all of your mental problems. Yeah. But I don't know why the next comment is like covered and wants me to show it, and I just want it to be able to see it. It'll probably come up when there's another. I can't scroll down to the next comment. So the last comment I see is, it's a quote from 1984. Why is that not showing? No, I guess there isn't another comment. It's weird. All right, where are we? Okay. Source of insanities. These will be fully covered later and should not be confused with either the analytical mind and or the standard memory banks. The data storage bank, or the human, or the part of the human mind that contains aberrations, will be covered later and shouldn't be confused with analytical mind or standard memory banks. Well, then why bring it up? That's a whole paragraph. If he's talking about what he's talking about right now, shouldn't even bring it up. Okay. Whether the data contained in the standard memory banks is evaluated correctly or not, it is all there. The various senses receive information, and this information files straight into the standard memory banks. It does not go through the analyzer first. It is filed, and the analyzer then has it from the standard banks. I'm going to have to read that again. Y'all, if you want to take notes after I'm done reading the chapter, you can call in and we'll talk about it. Maybe we should smoke some weed before reading. Maybe that helps to understand. That's what everybody says. I can't, or I would. I'm on one of those pain management contracts, and I get tested every couple months. I do have a beer in there, though. You got to think. I think this guy he either did drugs or he had a major malfunction in his brain. Oh, hey, Brian. It makes it worse. Oh, yeah, it probably would. Because it's not fun enough. All right, where are we? I'm going to read that again. Whether the data contained in the standard memory banks is evaluated correctly or not, it is all there. The various senses receive information, and this information files straight in the standard memory bank. It does not go through the analyzer first. It is filed, and the analyzer then has it from the standard memory banks. I guess he's just talking about life. Everything you do is going to be stored from your taste, touch, sight, hearing, all of your senses. So, I mean, it goes into your subconscious. That's what normal people would think of this is, okay, it goes into your subconscious. It's filed in your brain. It's there somewhere. Sometimes we can't access it. He did drugs and had a major malfunction. He had both. Yes, he did, Brian. He did. Do we know anybody else in history that wrote as much as this guy did? Because think about all the policies he wrote every single day. He wrote something every single day to tell them what to do, how to clean the glass, how to do this, how to walk, how to talk, how to chew gum, everything. I would not be surprised if that was in there at all. Wouldn't surprise me. Okay. There are several of these standard banks, and they may be duplicated in themselves so that there are several of each kind of bank. Nature seems generous in such things. There is a bank or set of banks for each perception. These can be considered racks of data filed in a cross-index system, which would make an intelligence officer purple with envy. Any single percept is filed as a concept. The sight of a moving car, for instance, is filed in the Visio bank in color and motion at the time seen. Cross-indexed to the area in which seen, cross-indexed to all data about cars, cross-indexed to thoughts about cars, and so forth, with the additional filing of conclusions through thought stream of the moment and thought streams of the past with all their conclusions. The sound of that car is similarly filed from the ears straight into the audio bank and cross-indexed multitudinously as before. The other sensations of that moment are also filed in their own banks. I'm looking that word up. I want to see if that's a real word. Multitudinously is multi. Where'd it go? There it is. Multi. To. Well, multitudinous is a word, so I guess adding ly to it. Is multitudinously a word? It is. No, multitudinous. I asked for Okay, here we go. It still goes to multitudinous. So, oh well. I was just curious. Okay, so all of your senses file what they see and hear and feel into your brain. He says memory banks. Maybe the beer I'm having helps too. I thought about going and getting my beer. I think next time I might. Just to relax. And I always get a headache. I don't get headaches very often. I'm one of those. I get everything else. I just don't get headaches that often. Okay. I thought this was shorter. Now, it may be that the whole filing is done in one bank. It would be simpler that way, but this is not a matter of structure, but mental performance. Eventually, somebody will discover just how they are filed. Right now, the function of filing is all that interests us. Every percept, sight, sound, smell, feeling, taste, organic sensation, pain, rhythm, kinesthesia, which is weight and muscular motion, and emotion, is each properly and neatly filed in the standard banks in full. It does not matter how many aberrations a physically intact person has, or whether he thinks he can or cannot contain this data or recall it, the file is there and it is complete. This file begins at a very early period, of which more later. That was the sentence. Say that again. This file begins at a very early period, comma, of which more later. Okay. It then runs consecutively, whether the individual is asleep or awake, except in moments of unconsciousness, for an entire lifetime. It apparently has an infinite capacity. I disagree. I really do think there's not infinite capacity, because I think when you take some things in, some things go out. I remember the stupidest stuff and can't remember the important stuff. That's just my opinion. The numbers of these concept means that which is retained after something has been perceived. Would stagger an astronomer's computer. The existence and profusion of memories retained were discovered and studied in a large number of cases, and they can be examined in anyone by certain processes, which he, I'm sure, is going to make up for everyone to use. Everything in this bank is correct insofar as the single action of perception is concerned. There may be organic errors in the organs of perception, such as blindness or deafness, when physical, not aberrational, which would leave blanks in the banks. And there may be organic impairment, such as partial organic deafness, which would leave partial blanks. But these things are not errors in the standard memory banks. They are simply absence of data. Like the computer, the standard memory banks are perfect, recording faithfully and reliably. I don't think computers are perfect, but again, that's my opinion. Now, part of the standard banks is audiosemantic, which is to say the recordings of words heard, and part of the banks in visiosemantic, which is to say the recording of words read. These are special parts of the sound and sight files. A blind man who has to read with his fingers develops a tactile semantic file. The content of the speech files is exactly as heard without alteration. Another interesting part of the standard memory banks is that they apparently file the original and hand forward exact copies to the analyzer. They will hand out as many exact copies as are demanded without diminishing the actual file original. And they hand out these copies, each in kind, with color, motion, sight, tone, audio, etc. The amount of material which is retained in the average standard memory banks would fill several libraries, but the method of retention is invariable, and the potentiality of recall is perfect. I still think he's explaining in too much detail. I think we can understand how a blind man reads and retains the information. I think we just would understand that. But he has to talk to us like we're 5. The primary source of error in rational computation comes under the headings of insufficient data and erroneous data. The individual, daily facing new situations, is not always in possession of all the material he requires to make a decision. And he may have been told something on good authority which was not true, and yet which did not find counter evidence in the banks. Between the standard banks, which are perfect and reliable, and the computer, the analytical mind, which is perfect and reliable, there is no irrational concourse. Concourse and act of coming or flowing together. The answer is always as right as it can be made to be in the light of data at hand, and that is all anyone can ask of a computing device or a recording device. The analytical mind goes even further in its efforts to be right than one would suppose. It constantly checks and weighs new experience in the light of old experience, forms new conclusions in the light of old conclusions, changes old conclusions, and generally is very busy being right. So he just spent a whole page telling us that our brain is a computer. We can only take in that which is true to make a decision. If we don't have the right data, obviously we won't make the right decision, even though the brain is, I'm saying brain, the memory banks, the brain, the analytical mind, that's what he was saying. The analytical mind is always right, even when it has wrong data. So what if the creator of this book and the religion didn't have the right data, wasn't using the right information. How did he know? Just saying. All right. I'm trying to read a little bit faster. Okay. The analytical mind might be considered to have been given a sacred post of trust by the cells to safeguard the colony, and it does everything within its power to carry out that mission. It has correct data, as correct as possible, and it does correct computations on them as correct as they can be made. When one considers the enormous number of factors which one handles, for instance, in the action of driving a car 10 blocks, he can appreciate how very, very busy on how very many levels that analytical mind can be. I have to stop and make comments so I don't get in trouble for reading it. All right. Because I was just reading parts of the highlights of chapters, but these are short enough to read the whole thing. But I'm going too slow. I need to hurry up. Okay, where did we end? Analytical. Now, before we introduce the villain of this piece, the reactive mind, it is necessary to understand something about the relation of the analytical mind to the organism itself. The analytical mind, charged with full responsibility, is far from without authority to carry out its actions and desires. Now, he said it's far from, you could just say it's far from authority to carry out. Why has he got to add another word? Or is far from without, or does, okay, so that's called something, y'all know. It canceled itself out. So why do you have to use all those words? He could have said has authority to carry out its actions and desires through the mechanisms of the life function regulator, which handles all the mechanical function of living. The analytical mind can affect any function of the body it desires to affect. In excellent working order, which is to say, when the organism is not aberrated, the analytical mind can influence the heartbeat, the endocrines, such things as calcium and sugar in the blood, adrenaline, etc. Selective blood flow, stopped in the limbs or starting it at will. Urine, excreta, etc. All glandular rhythm and fluid functions of the body can be at the command of the analytical mind. This is not to say that in a cleared person they always are. That would be very uncomfortable and bothersome. But it does say that the analytical mind can affect changes at desire when it skills itself to do so. This is a matter of laboratory proof. Very easy to do. The cleared always are. I'm trying to figure out the uncomfortable, bothersome part. The functions of the body can be at the command of the analytical mind. This is not to say that in a cleared person they always are. But it does say that the analytical mind can affect changes at desire when it skills itself to do so. Okay, I think I understand a little bit more. Okay. People have long been intuitive about the full power of the mind. Well, the full power of the mind would be the analytical mind working with the standard memory banks, the life function regulator, and one other thing. The last and most important thing is, of course, the organism. It is in the large I'm sorry. It is in the charge of the analytical mind, and the analytical mind controls it in other ways than life function. All muscles and the remainder of the organism can be under the full command of the analytical mind. We're almost done. In order to keep it and its circuits free of bric-a-brac and minor activities, the analytical mind is provided with a learned training pattern regulator. Okay. Into this. By education, it can place the stimulus response patterns necessary for the performance of tasks like talking, walking, piano playing, etc. These learned patterns are not unchangeable. Because they are selected by the analytical mind after thought and effort, there is seldom any need to change them. If new situations arise, a new pattern is trained into the muscles. None of these are conditionings. None of these are conditionings. They are simply training patterns which the organism can use without attention of any magnitude from the analyzer. An uncountable number of such patterns can be laid into the organism by this method, and they are not the source of any trouble since they file by time and situation, and a very little thought will serve to annul old ones in favor of new ones. Hi, Cynthia. I get what he's saying, just not the way he says it. We all know how our brains work and our subconscious works and how our life functions work. He's trying to change how we think about the very basics of our thought processes, is what he's doing. All muscles, voluntary and involuntary, can be at the command of the analytical mind. Here, then, is the composite of a sentient being. There is no chance for error beyond the errors incident to insufficient data, and erroneous but accepted data. And the last will be used by the analyzer just once if that once proves the data to be wrong. Here is the realm of pleasure, emotion, creation, and construction, and even destruction. If the computation on the optimum solution says something has to be destroyed, the dynamics underlie the activities of the analytical mind. The urge toward survival explains all its actions. That we can understand the fundamental simplicity of the functional mechanism does not, however, mean that a man operating this way alone is cold or calculating or intent on tooth and claw. The nearer man approaches this optimum in an individual or in a whole society, the quicker and warmer is that society, the more honest may be its moods and actions. Sanity depends upon rationality. Here is optimum rationality and therefore optimum sanity. And here also are all the things man likes to think man should be like, or for that matter, what he has represented his better gods to be like. This is the clear. This is sanity. This is happiness. This is survival. Where is the error? Question mark. End of chapter. Next chapter is the reactive mind, which is longer, and we all hear about the reactive mind. Sanity depends upon rationality. Here is optimum rationality and therefore optimum sanity. So he's trying to erase insanity. Wow. Just wow. Just wow. The analytical mind and standard memory banks. Well, I'm done. We'll read reactive mind, pretty long. So, wow. This is the reactive mind. That's a pretty big chapter. Susan, that is a very good way to explain it. She says, almost like, all right, I'm not reading the book anymore. Almost like taking the human feelings out and leaving the robot. Yeah, that's pretty much what he's doing. Oh, sorry. Shaking. Again, now I see why there had to be Dianetic centers and classes for this. I would love to be able to find somebody that bought the Dianetics books recently in 2024-ish that tried to read it. That, like, they got sucked in, they paid $30 for the book and tried to read it and was like, how is this going to help me? Because they said it would. They expect people to read this and come back and want to join or want to take courses from it. Does anybody know, are they still doing Dianet? Is there a course still on Dianetics or some sort of class? I do know. I saw when I was trying to buy the book, there's a workbook that goes with this. Sorry, I'm shaking. There's a work, it's probably from when they had the Dianetics centers and the Dianetics classes. I tried to find a Dianetics center picture to put as my thumbnail. I'm still looking. I don't know if there's much to talk about. If anybody wants to come on and say anything, you can. I'll put the link out if you want. But I don't know how much there is to really talk about. So I knew this would be a quick chapter. So I think I'm just going to end it there. That way, when people want to rewatch it, it's not very long. Like I said, the first couple chapters got a little bit more interesting. This is still shaking. Got a little more interesting, but this is just getting into some hoodoo. Where did he get this stuff? I might do some checking on that. I think I'm going to do some research because I would like to know where he got some of this stuff. He hasn't. You know what? Does he have a... It's been so long since I wrote a book report. Bibliography or something. Now, there is a list of the centers. The Hubbard Dianetics Seminar. Now, in as little as one weekend or 5 evenings, you can get your practical hands-on experience in using Dianetics technology to better your life. The Dianetics Seminar is designed to give you an introduction to Dianetics principles and techniques on an easy, enjoyable gradient. Yeah, he did. What's cool is this book is from... I thought I got the 86 book, but I think it looked a little rougher than this one. So I got the one from 1991. So it was still pretty early. And so in 1991, either they republished the same stuff or there was still seminars. So here's Learn More About Dianetics. And it's free introductory Dianetics auditing session, Dianetics lecture, free Dianetics film, free Dianetics personality test, Dianetics extension course. You can learn more about Dianetics right in your own home with the Dianetics extension course. Trained Dianetics supervisors will review your lessons by mail and help you gain greater knowledge and understanding. Does somebody really want to sit and do that in 1991? Maybe. I don't know. You'll get an actual look into your own reactive mind and start on the road to handling your reactive mind and reaching the state of clear. You know what? I might see if that's on eBay because I saw a picture of the Dianetics book, a workbook, and these CDs. I'm not going to get the course. I might get the workbook just to see what other people were using, just to kind of get an idea. Hubbard Dianetics Auditor course. That was it. I was trying to find if he quoted anybody. He won't. He's not going to quote anybody. There's not one. I know there's no bibliography because it all came from him. Books about the e-meter, reference materials, books for the workplace, Dianetics Scientology aids. I wonder if this is in the new books. Oh, bibliography. He's using his own stuff in the bibliography. The bibliography. The Phoenix Lectures, Scientology Philosophy, The Creations of Human Ability, their handbook, Scientology 0 to 8, the Book of Basics. That's his bibliographies. Wow. Just wow. And then he has an index, and that's long. And a glossary. I'm going to go through that glossary later. Might highlight some weird. Old Man of the Sea. All right. And you can send off free personalized achievement profile, a $30 value. All right. I'm going to go, y'all. I'll see you next week at 3. We'll be reading The Reactive Mind. I think I'm going to put that out right after this so that people can see it all week, because we all know the reactive mind is an important thing for them to be able to go clear. So that's probably why it's longer. I think it might be more interesting to most of us because we hear about it a lot. So, all right, guys, I'll see you next Sunday at 3 p.m. for some more fun Dianetics. Bye.